This hour, we're going to be having a few drinks. You're watching Liquid Lunch, and you are watching a Liquid Lunch go down on Newsmax TV. I'm John Tobacco. We're coming to you today live, as we do every day, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Question Tequila Studios. We're in downtown Manhattan. We're on Broadway. Yes, Mom, I'm still on Broadway. We haven't been canceled yet. And joining me again is my co-host, managing editor of Liquid Lunch, Frank Morano. Frankie, what do we got going on? I'm going to try not to interrupt you this time.
All right, well, we are seeing a bit of an odd pairing. We like odd pairings because we're purple.
Is this like chicken and white wine, or like a pairing like that?
No. Ted Cruz is teaming up with, of all people, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to request that the NBA suspend activities in China. And I got to tell you, in an era where there are very few topics that Senator Cruz and Representative Ocasio-Cortez can agree upon, I think they are absolutely right. So this is a bipartisan letter that's signed by several members of Congress, including probably the most right-wing guy and the most left-wing guy.
God, my stomach hurts.
Why does your stomach hurt?
AOC and Ted Cruz, I mean, this is a joke. It's like worse than Odd Couple.
Well,
you know what I mean? Oscar Madison, Felix Unger.
For people that haven't followed the story, and this is precisely the type of
Can I get the AOC shirt, if you don't mind?
This is precisely the type of sports story that our sports analyst, Nico Romano, should be bringing to our attention.
True.
But for people that haven't followed the story, the general manager of the Houston, or we in New York call it Houston, Rockets, Daryl Morey, sent out a tweet supporting the Hong Kong protesters. That's all he did. Now, we should all be supporting the Hong Kong protesters. They're in the midst of being
And we should
shot.
be free to retweet whatever we wish.
Exactly. So this prompted a Chinese backlash.
What got me to schmedium in this thing? It's a little tight. Oh, snug.
Oh, boy. John, it's not going to... hey, you pulled it off. You pulled it off. All right.
Okay, sorry.
Well, so this...
When you talk about Ted Cruz and AOC, I just want Ted Cruz to know what our mission here is on Liquid Lunch is to make AOC bartender.
Let me move on. Okay, let me tell you about an interesting lawsuit. This is a real story, okay? Johnson & Johnson is going to have to pay $8 billion. Did you hear about this?
Billion?
Billion, with a B.
Okay.
Now, what do you think they did to be forced to pay $8 billion?
Created overly addictive painkillers
that
murdered quite a good percentage of a generation of kids.
That's
their
the
lives.
kind of thing that I think an $8 billion judgment would be appropriate.
Okay, that wasn't J&J?
No. Let me tell you what Johnson & Johnson did.
Did they use artificial ingredients in their foot powder? Because I like the foot powder.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Johnson & Johnson is going to have to pay $8 billion to a man who says he grew breasts from taking one of their drugs.
Jesus.
So a Philadelphia, Pennsylvania jury ruled in favor of this 26-year-old man, Nicholas Murray, who filed suit saying he developed breasts from doctor-prescribed Risperdal in 2003. And apparently, according to MarketWatch...
How do we go from AOC and Ted Cruz to men with breasts?
You didn't seem to have much interest in the Chinese NBA situation, so we moved on. So MarketWatch is reporting that Murray's award is one of 13,000 lawsuits filed against the company, saying the drug, which is manufactured by Johnson & Johnson, enlarged breast tissue in men.
Not in women.
Not in women.
They would think there would be a run on it. If it worked on women, they'd save like $12,000 on these implants that I see. Maybe they could use them to inject them in the lips, like all the leftovers, so they don't have to put their butt fat in their lips and then walk around.
We will see what happens. We will see what happens going forward.
You see these women, at like my kids' events and stuff, and one day they look normal.
Yeah.
And then the next day they come in, their lips are out to here. Yeah, I don't understand. Do you think it's not obvious? Does J&J do that stuff too?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
But let me tell you about Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard.
I love her.
She has made... I like her too. I like her too. She has made the debate stage for the next Democratic debate on October 15th, along with Tom Steyer. So now there's going to be 12 candidates up there, which means it has to be over 2 nights.
Tom Steyer.
However, well, Tom Steyer essentially...
He paid $10. You got to get a certain amount of donations. You got to get $1 donations. He paid $10 to get people to donate $1. Which sounds like a crime to me. You know what I'm saying? That I would pay $10 in marketing to try to extract a manipulated dollar out of these poor people who don't even know they get trapped on the internet.
All right. Well, so Tulsi Gabbard put out a video earlier today where she is threatening to, now that she's qualified for the debate stage, she is actually threatening to boycott
I like
the
her
debate.
style. I like her style.
Because she claims the DNC is rigging the primary election just like they did in 2016.
For who is she saying they're rigging it for?
I think just against her, probably.
So she's not saying they have a preferred candidate.
No, it's based on how these debate rules and things like that. She said the 2016 Democratic primary election was rigged by the DNC and their partners in the corporate media against Bernie Sanders. Remember, she was a big Bernie person. She endorsed him. And in this 2020 election, according to Tulsi, the DNC and corporate media are rigging the election again, but this time against the American people in the early voting states of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. Threatening a boycott.
What percent is she in the polls?
I will have to check, but I don't.
We need a replacement. Do we have Bill de Blasio? Is he still around here?
I haven't seen.
We need a replacement.
Like
for
most
de Blasio.
New Yorkers,
we called de Blasio getting knocked out of the race. He's gone. Not that he's in New York being mayor or anything like that. He's still pretty much MIA. But and we said that Kirsten Gillibrand, she was also going to get banged out of the race. She's gone.
Like most New Yorkers, I have not seen.
Who shall we target next to knock out of the Democratic primaries?
Well, I mean,
because we're having a big impact, first of all,
I'm
just so you know.
all for more voices and more choices in terms
Okay.
of presidential elections. So
We put him on the side of a milk container because he was missing in action here in New York, and it's 1% milk because he was at 1% in the polls. If you have any suggestions for us, go to Liquid Lunch TV.
Did you do crack this morning? I feel like you're particularly difficult to manage. There's something going on with you today. I don't know what it is. A day away from bocce, and forget about it. You're a new man. It's more than Panzoni that you've been consuming today. I'm telling you.
Who would even come into this space thinking that there was a possibility of managing me?
Yeah, right.
You know
Exactly.
what I mean? He's my managing editor. He hasn't been able to manage me for 15 years.
All right. Here in New York, speaking of New York's mayor, Bill
I'm going to
de
be good
Blasio.
because I see Rob Taub over there.
Yeah, there you go.
Rob's
He'll whip you into
Rob's
shape.
like, there's an adult in the room now.
All right. Here in New York, there is a big climate change protest happening in Times Square. And apparently there's going to be about 100 protesters. They've blocked off traffic in Times Square. Now, being a New Yorker, what traffic is like in Times Square. And they've
Can we move them into the bike lanes?
Well, no, listen,
the protesters' lanes?
Listen, they brought in a boat. They brought in a giant boat.
And did a 15-year-old girl from Sweden row it here across the Atlantic too?
No.
Is that what happened?
So the NYPD...
She's going to sail it into the UN?
Our friends at the NYPD have towed the boat away.
Great.
But Broadway and 7th Avenue, this is the busiest intersection in the world, had to be closed to traffic during this protest.
Boat traffic.
Boat traffic, right. The group behind the protest is called Extinction Rebellion, and their goal is to bring attention to climate change.
That's great. I want to remind you that all voices are heard on Liquid Lunch. We have on Walter Bragman, who thinks that climate change... Walker Bragman, who thinks climate change is the #1 danger facing America right now, which is bizarre. But just last week, I reported to you that some really credible scientists over at the University of Turku in Finland came out with a study saying that the multi-million-year cyclical cloud cover, so how far the clouds are from Earth, between the sun and Earth, was never considered by a measure of 10 standard deviations by all these cuckoos that think that us humans on this little planet can possibly affect the entire solar system. But it's been proven. The IPCC has made a joke of some real research that's come out, and human beings are on this little planet in this whole galaxy. How could any of us be that vain to think we can affect what human behavior can affect the universe? It's crazy.
I think when there are greenhouse gas emissions, it creates a greenhouse effect, and it causes carbon dioxide to be trapped in the atmosphere, and it makes the Earth warmer. You don't buy that. You don't buy that. All right.
Is he one of them now?
What do you mean? You don't have to be a Democrat to believe in science. It is.
Let me ask you this: you're a brilliant young man.
I am not.
And
far
I don't want to suggest your age or anything, but you are, despite what you think.
Far from it.
He is a young man. Okay. How many times do you think the Earth has traveled around our nearest galaxy, like the Milky Way, they call it? How many times?
What do you mean around the galaxy?
I'm saying, we're rotating in our own little solar system here, right? And then all these other 40, 50, hundreds of thousands and millions of other planets that are out there, they're all in this Milky Way in our galaxy, right? And it all goes around, it's called a galaxy, right? Well, we're rotating in here, but then there's these bigger.
I don't know.
Well, how many times do you think our little planet has been around the whole galaxy?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Take a guess.
I couldn't tell you.
You're a gambler.
No
you go to
idea.
AC every week, you lose your paycheck.
I don't know.
Take a gamble.
1 million?
15 times.
15 times. Okay.
So Earth, in its entire existence, has only gone around the galaxy 15 times. Okay? So how can you possibly think we know enough about the expanse of time in just 15 times around the galaxy? They're still a teenager.
So, John,
Earth may not even have gone through puberty yet, for all we know.
John,
and we're already figuring out how men and women and transgenders and whatever you are can affect weather and climate. It's crazy.
all right. Well,
I don't like it. I don't like the topic. I think
mercifully,
it's crap.
this segment is over. But coming up next, you're going to hear two real experts, two very passionate individuals. They're going to comment on the Giuliani arrests. Well, not of Giuliani.
Why
but
don't you
his
mix it up
associates.
with them? Because you're friends with Dan Christman, and I'm not myself today. You scolded me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, we need you, John. We need you. Don't go.
There's Dan Christman. Ho, the show's about to get crazy.
Oh, boy. I'm glad I'm
one
leaving.
of the finest candidates I've ever seen in any race, and believe me, I've been a candidate in tons of races.
I don't see how we don't get canceled.
Never won
after
a single
today's
thing,
show.
but Daniel Christman, former candidate for New York City public advocate, social critic, and Rob Taub, Newsmax contributor, author of the centrist sentiments on Newsmax.com, and one of our favorite Democratic humorists, will join us next, right after this, to mix it up. I'm going to try to behave.